everyone, and welcome back to Anyone Can Learn to Code. In this episode, we'll be continuing our journey of learning to create our own custom Ruby classes and introduce the concept of getters. In the past couple of episodes, we've been building some pretty important banking software, and we created our own bank account class. All it does right now is keep track of how much money is in the account, and allows the account holder to deposit or withdraw money from the account. Let's create a new account in IRB and start it out with $100. So first we'll load the bankaccount.rb file, and then we'll create a new bank account. So account is the variable that will hold the new bank account object, and we're going to start it out with $100 like that. And it gives us the message, there is now $100 in your account. Let's deposit another $75 into the account. And now let's withdraw $25. We can see that when we deposit or withdraw money, the return value from those methods conveniently provides us with the current amount of money being held in the account. And that's great because a pretty important feature of an electronic bank account is the ability to check how much money is inside it. But let's say the account holder has forgotten how much money is inside the account, and now he wants to check how much money he has left in the bank. But he doesn't want to make a deposit or withdrawal now, and certainly doesn't want to do so just to find out how much money is left. How can we get at the simple dollar amount that the bank account now holds? Now we know that this coveted number is being stored inside an instance variable called money. But how can we get at that instance variable? In IRB, we have this bank account object in our hands, but all you can do with an object is create one, and then call one of its methods. And this is such an important concept that I'm going to repeat it. The only way to interact with an object is by calling its methods. I like to compare this to a restaurant kitchen. Your only access to the kitchen is by way of the waiter. If you want a dish, you ask the waiter, who then goes into the kitchen and brings it back to you. You cannot, however, just stroll into the kitchen and walk out with a lasagna. Your waiter is your only means of access. So a Ruby object is like that kitchen. The methods are the waiters and can get you what you need from the object, but you cannot just try to directly open up the object and walk out with its instance variables. That being said, it may have dawned upon you that the solution to our problem is to ask the waiters for our instance variable. In other words, we will create a method that will deliver to us the instance variable that we're looking for. The method we need is extremely simple. We'll call this method money, and all it will do is return the instance variable of money. So now we have this new method called money. All it does is return the instance variable of money, which contains the number of dollars in the account, which is exactly what we need. Incidentally, a method whose entire responsibility is just to deliver an instance variable is often known as a getter, or a getter method. Our money method is just that, the classic getter method. All it does is return an instance variable. Now that we have this method, let's see it in action. Let's reload the bank account file. And now if we call the money method on this account object, we get back the number of dollars in the account, which in this case is 150. Now here's something interesting. Getter methods are extremely common, as you might imagine. So the creators of Ruby did us a favor and created a shortcut way of writing these methods. The shortcut is to use a command called attr_reader. Attr is short for attribute, and reader is a sort of synonym for getter. You're reading an attribute, or getting an instance variable, is basically the same thing. You then put a space and a colon immediately followed by the name of the instance variable that you want to create the getter method for. In our case, it's money. In other words, we want a getter method to return the money instance variable. This interesting syntax of a word preceded by a colon is known as a symbol. We'll talk about symbols in depth in a future episode, but just know for now that this word preceded by a colon is called a symbol. Now the attr_reader money line that we just created here on line 3 is nothing more than a shortcut for the getter method here that we just created. Now that we have the attr_reader money on line 3, we can just delete the method that we have here, but we'd still be able to call account.money since this attr_reader money essentially creates that method for us. So using @reader is nothing more than a convenience. It's just a shorthand way of creating the money method that we created earlier. So if you go back to IRB, reload the bank account file, and call account.money again, we'll see that it still works. Now if you had a bunch of instance variables that you wanted to create getter methods for, you can all do it on the same line. Just list out the instance variable symbols and separate them by commas. So for example, we can have another instance variable called account type, and maybe customer name, etc. And now we have 3 getter methods, one for each of these instance variables. Well, that's all you need to know about getter methods. They are very common and very handy. Thanks for watching. Anyone can learn to code.